Greetings, all you Jackson Janets, and welcome to your daily dose of donkey with Ginger. It's your boy, the Viking Donkey, coming to you from the Ark universe today. First time ever playing it, so don't judge me too hard. I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm here to bring you sports talk, because it is that time. We had another preseason game for all the Steeler fans, and for anyone hoping for Ginger's input today, unfortunately, you gotta wait at least another week because you're only getting mine this week. So we have a game to go over. More importantly, maybe even, we have a trade to discuss. And some dinosaurs over there looking nice. Joe Sherbert coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is it a good trade? Clearly upgrades the inside linebacker position. Because if you watch the game, even Devin Bush couldn't cover. Like, I have no idea what any of these guys were doing. But covering anyone on the field was not the answer. They looked terrible out there, so bringing in Schobert's clearly going to upgrade that unit some, hopefully. I mean, if he plays like he did last year in Jacksonville, at least he's a solid tackler, but his coverage was terrible. I mean, there are obvious caveats with a Joe Sherbert trade. Why does a guy who just signed a big deal 2 years ago get moved after 1 year with a team? You could say new management, new ownership regime, but still, if he was the type of player they wanted, they would have kept him, and he gets moved for only a 6th-round pick. Bad news for the Steelers is he does count for $7 million against the cap this year. That's a big hit. Good news is he's an inside linebacker that at least is starter quality. Maybe not top-tier starter. I still don't think the Steelers have a top-tier starting middle linebacker, which is a problem. But at least starter quality. And any money due to him, which is like $8 million, $9 million, I think $11 million, the remaining 3 years of this contract, are not guaranteed, so the Steelers aren't on the hook for anything but this year, which is really good news. Getting a pretty good player is good news, but still questions to me. Schobert is a guy who puts up the flashy numbers, right? He goes ahead and he intercepts the football. He puts up nice interception numbers, which is why a lot of people are like, oh, his coverage skills are so good. They're awesome because he's the type of guy who over the last 3 years has gone 2 interceptions every year. He had 3 interceptions his Pro Bowl year, which was 4 years ago. But I'm going to be honest with you, this is a guy who's terrible at tackling in the bottom half of the league in terms of missed tackles. By that I mean he misses a lot of tackles. He's never had a year where he was sustained at great tackling. He is a guy who makes a show he plays, and that there's something to be said for that. I think changing the field could be huge, but let's also remember this dude's never been a part of a winning football team, and he doesn't seem like necessarily the kind of guy who would be a part of a winning football team, if that makes sense. I mean, I don't know. He definitely has some struggles in him, and I hope he comes here. I hope he's great. He definitely is an upgrade. That's the first thing. I don't want anyone to get confused and be like, oh, you're just hating on him because you want Steelers to fail stuff. No, I hope he's great here. And I'm not saying this is a bad move. It's a good move. It's an upgrade. I think he's a little overpriced, definitely at $7 million. But you're talking a guy who's been okay in coverage. I mean, let's start 3 years ago. Gave up about a passer rating of 88. I mean, not terrible. Was playing pretty good. And 2 years ago was 74, he played even better. Oh, maybe this is a guy. And that's when he gets that big contract. He goes to Jacksonville last year. It gives up a QB rating on passes against him of 110, which is just terrible. 8.3 yards per target. You're talking giving up 6 touchdowns, 75% completion. If you want to put some comparison to that, Vince Williams, we all know, can't cover. Last year, he only gave up 6.6 yards per completion, 2 touchdowns, and a 63 completion percentage with only a 90 QB rating. So you're talking last year, Joe Sherbert was worse in coverage than Vince Williams. And you're seeing teams just torch us with tight ends. That's going to bring me right into the Eagles game. If you watched our starters play out there, none of those linebackers could cover, Devin Bush included. Clearly something needed to be done to improve them because these guys were just straight up trash. They were not very good at all. How do I catch him? Beat him up? Bad dinosaur. But yeah, the coverage was bad. If you watched the game, oh man, speed's going to kill us like it has before. I mean, Cameron Sutton got turned around for what should have been a touchdown. Luckily, they missed throw by Jalen Hurts saved us. And then you have, on top of that, going in, the linebackers can't cover anybody. Defensive ends and the line looked okay. The defensive line looked okay. But then we have this infatuation with the Steelers now of drafting or signing these safeties who can't play safety because they're too slow. So we call them Swiss Army knives because we're like, well, they can play anywhere because they're too slow to be a safety. But we like these guys who are good college players but really shouldn't fit in the NFL. And you guys got to see it. I know there's a lot of people out there who loved Norwood. I believe I have it right. Love that draft pick. He's a Swiss Army knife. He's a Swiss cheese Swiss Army knife. Like, literally what he is he's a guy you can play all over the field. Yeah, but he has gaping holes no matter where you play him. And the Steelers have fallen in love with these Swiss cheese, Swiss Army knife type of players. And it's making me a little nervous. It's like, as a Pirates fan to me, one thing the Pirates did for a long time was, you need position, you need people who are utility players that can play all positions, could start anywhere. That position fluidity is huge, it's important. And instead of actually getting players who are good at one position, you get players who can play multiple positions bad. But it's okay because they play multiple positions. So the fact that they're bad at all of them is what makes them valuable. No, it doesn't. You specialize in a position and you're good at it. That's what good teams do. And maybe you have one guy who can fill everywhere. But it seems like the Steelers are trying to fill their roster with these guys. Look, Marcus Allen, drafting a guy like Norwood, signing Miles Killebrew, who I actually like and hope he slips down to linebacker because at least he can hopefully cover. Actually, I don't even know if he can. But that's just not what I want to see. I don't want to see this. I want to see us start getting better. I think Schobert's a move in the right direction because if you watch that game, that defense left a lot to be desired. And so did the offensive line. Let's be honest. Let's go to the offensive side now. Because we finally played some starting offensive linemen, and Trey Turner looked terrible. All I remember of Kendrick Green is him getting picked up by, I believe it was Vinny Curry, and carried about 20 yards into the backfield. Like, if that's the super strong, super explosive center of our future, our future is bleak. And I understand Curry's a great player, but still, he got embarrassed as if he was a high schooler trying to go against a pro there. That was not a professional level player looking there. And it just, I guess I gotta go find some water. It was not pretty. The cornerbacks getting turned around wasn't pretty. The quarterback play was okay. I will say this. I like Mason Rudolph. I felt he played okay. How do I drink water? I'm gonna die. The quarterback play was okay. I thought Mason Rudolph played pretty good. Had a couple drives stall out because, for lack of a better term, when he went to throw the ball and completed it, looked good on the deep passes, and then there'd be holding calls on guys like Trey Turner, who looked just as bad as he did last year in San Diego, which isn't a good sign for us. There'd be Kendrick Green getting blown up. That offensive line play was just bad. I don't know how else to describe it. They didn't play very good. I hope they play better in the next game. I'm not sure if they will play better in the next game. That's still a scary point for me as his middle linebacker. Receivers who played in the game were okay. Najee Harris looked okay, but someone teach that kid to stay on the ground because one of these times he's going to get flipped on a position that he doesn't want to land, and it's not going to be good for the Steelers. It's not going to be good for Najee. It's just not what you want to see your future running back doing, is getting himself in positions to get hurt, especially in the preseason. I liked what I saw out of Rudolph. I'll get to Dwayne Haskins here in a little bit. I thought Josh Dobbs looked like Josh Dobbs. He makes bad decisions. He's terrible at reading the field. He's the same quarterback he's been since we drafted him out of Tennessee. He hasn't really progressed. He still makes the same terrible decisions that he did before, and that's why I think he's the odd man looking out, because the Steelers seem to have fallen in love with the West Coast offense and captain checkdown, and look no farther for the next captain checkdown than Dwayne Haskins. Everyone wants to tell me how great he played, and the numbers are fine, but he's playing that type of offense where you can't afford to make mistakes, because if you do, you're going to be behind the chains and punting the ball a lot. He had 2 throws, I believe, down the field, and both were broken coverages, and both are wide open receivers, so both should have been easy completions. He only goes 1 of 2 on them. Now, the one was a touchdown. That's great to see. But I don't think he threw another ball over 8 yards down the field, and I just don't like seeing that out of the Steelers offense. Hopefully, they're just saving it for the regular season, But if we're just going to be captain check down again this year, that's going to be a problem. We need to do something other than just check the ball down. We need to start being able to push the ball down the field because let's be honest, this defense isn't going to be as good as it was last year, and we saw what happened when the offense had to carry the burden last year. Something needs to change. We cannot play that 5-yard down the field to beat you type of offense because we do not have the quarterback to do that. All of our quarterbacks are more talented throwing the ball farther down the field than checking it down. Although, honestly, I'm not sure about that with Haskins, but the two top ones, Roethlisberger and Rudolph, have been better downfield passers than short passers through their whole college and pro career to this point. I don't see that changing right now, so unless this running game is somehow going to be great with an offensive line that looks bad, I'm not sure how that works. Obviously, it's preseason, and obviously people will be like, but we ran the ball so well in the second and third quarter. I mean, yeah, you watch Philly in a hot day that hadn't played a game yet. We have conditioning on them. Their defensive line, their backups, was there in the second quarter. You could just see they were gassed. I mean, even the Philly commentators are like, why aren't they switching out our defensive linemen? I mean, sure, they want them to get reps, but these guys are clearly gassed. And once we saw it, we just took advantage of it, which maybe that's something we could do in the regular season. I certainly hope so. I like the way it's trending right now. No one's getting hurt. That's always huge going into the year. I'd love to see Ben get some reps because the last thing we can afford this year is a slow start. So we need Ben ready to fire game 1 at Buffalo. I really think he should be getting a lot more time than he is. I know you play it cautious with your veterans, but if you remember, we played terribly sloppy football on offense for the first 5 weeks last year. Let's not do that again. Let's go ahead and find a way to get out there, get going early. I'd love to see the starters playing more, getting that connection with each other, and especially the offensive line that has never played together. There's something to be said about cohesiveness and unity. The teams that have good lines are normally teams that have had the line together for a few years. It's not normally just instantaneous great play. They have to learn to play with each other, and we're not playing them together, which makes me really, really nervous. We need to see Okorafor, Dotson, Green, Turner, Banner all play together if that's going to be the line of choice. Let's get them together. Let's play them together. Let's get them cohesive. If Finney's going to be in there, then put Finney in one of the spots. I don't care who the 5 starters are, but those 5 starters need to be playing together right now in order for good things to happen in the regular season, in my opinion. Also, all these backup tight ends that I keep reading these articles about how the Steelers have the greatest tight end depth they ever had because these guys are so good. They're so talented. I go out there, dude. Firemouth looks like a guy. Like, honestly, he looks like a Jesse James, like a rookie Jesse James. Like, there's clearly a lot of stuff that needs to get there, and honestly, that's who he reminded me of when he was drafted. That's who he looks like right now. Zach Gentry, yeah, cool, he's big. You know what else he is? A guy who can't block and a guy who can't catch the football. Sorry if I'm not sold on that. But, I don't know. Firemouth has the potential. Like, Jesse James was a starter in the NFL for a reason. He was a decent starter, too. Not a top-end one, not a bottom-end one. More like fit right smack dab in the middle for us for a couple years. I think that's what he could be. I want to see more playing time from these guys. All in all, the game was pretty good. The quarterbacks, which was the biggest thing, looked fine. The starters who were in there looked okay. Nothing spectacular. You'd like to see a little more flashy play. The biggest problem to me, though, is the Steelers still have a hard time with the 2 things that have plagued us for, 10 years now? And that's covering tight ends and running backs because none of our linebackers know how to cover. And it's receivers with speed have always been a problem for the Steelers. And watching that game, those 2 things still look like the problem for the Steelers. I'm not going to judge the offense because it wasn't full. Again, Najee Harris did what you expect him to do. He takes the yards that are there and does it very well. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great thing to have. I hope it continues through the regular season. I hope this offensive line can get together, can start actually generating some constant push and not just taking dumb penalties. We need to see something better out of these guys. I don't know what it is, but we need to see it. Also, shout out Lafayette Pitts, I believe, had an interception in the game, and that's huge. That's fun to see. But anyway, that does it for me in my wrap-up. I don't really have much else going on this week. It's a short one for you, so y'all should appreciate that. Hopefully we get Gingy back so we can talk a little bit more about the Schobert trade, because I'd really, really love to break some things down with him, which is why I didn't get too in-depth into it right now. Just the basic coverage numbers that make me a little nervous. But who knows? We'll get to that when we do. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this week's episode. If you have questions for me or want to hear about a different team, let me look into a different team, see what's going on there. I'd love to do that. If there's any takes on any NFL subjects going off that you'd like to know about, I'd love to give a go-to on that. Apparently I broke my leg in the game. Don't know how that happened. But it's time for me to give my shout-out. My shout-out this week is to Joe Schobert. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Play like the Pro Bowler you were in 2017, I believe, and not like the guy you've been the last couple years, because I'd love to see a Pro Bowler in the middle of that team and bring back some great feelings of middle linebackers who just dominate, Steelers linebackers dominating, something that should be happening. So let's bring it in. Let's have it happen. And that means we're about done, because shout-outs are done. So go ahead, reach me at Viking Donkey on Xbox, Viking_Donkey on Twitch and Twitter. Leave me a comment on your Daily Dose of Donkey with Ginger. Any way you want to talk, let us know. You want to take part in the show, let us know. We'll see what we can do. We'll see how we can hit you up. And Jackson Jennings, thank you for making it all the way to the end. It's that time, baby. Rave them if you got them. Wave them if you got them.